Hello, welcome to PODnas. This is a sports show with some Southern and Cajun flair. I'm Daniel Hawks, Jared Roser right there. Today we're going to talk about LSU making it to the Men's College World Series for the umpteenth time again. I believe it's 20th. And also we got some NBA action. Jared, how you doing today?
Good, man. Look, I'm glad the rainy, weather-adjusted stretch of hosting these games in Baton Rouge is done, and these guys get to head up to Omaha. It's been fun watching the journey this far, and they seem like they're kind of finding their stride overall at the right time. So enjoyable time of year for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely feels this is just from someone who is not as plugged in on anything, but especially not college baseball. Uh, it seems like this, just from watching kind of highlights and stuff this past weekend from all over the NCAA baseball scene, that LSU is going to look like they're going to be one of the top favorites going into Omaha, no matter who is left with this last game that they have. I believe Murray State and Duke is the only game, the only series that we need to figure out still in the super regional field. But they look like a fun team. They look like the offense, in the last 2 weekends in the regional and super regional, the bats are really starting to come alive. The pitching is there. And it looks like this LSU team should be considered a favorite to make it to the finals of Omaha and possibly get another little year up there for the Intimidator.
Yeah, they went into this tournament overall viewed as one of the betting favorites, and take that for what you will, because the odds are always going to be a little bit shorter for LSU because they know that they're a fan favorite. And so where the money comes in and all those things kind of affects what those numbers look like. But oddly enough, Arkansas and LSU had been kind of the betting favorites, and those two teams will have to start the College World Series against one another later on this weekend. But I mean, going in as a betting favorite and actually making it is obviously, a world of difference, and particularly in modern college baseball where the degree of parity is greater than ever before. And you saw the top two seeds in the entire tournament in Vanderbilt and Texas go down in home regionals last week. I think you saw some things from this LSU team through these past 2 weekends to deal with some adversity at times, whether it be the opponents or the weather or scheduling changes or just things not necessarily going LSU's way at times, and them having to grit through it. And I think there's a lot to be celebrated and excited about in terms of getting to this point, from some of the pitching performances, as well as you mentioned the bats coming alive at some key moments. And the list is not short in terms of guys that have risen to occasions and starred in their roles in key moments these past 2 weekends. And so credit to those guys and the way that Jay Johnson and that staff have them playing right now. Looking forward to seeing what Omaha holds now, because obviously it's a much different beast to leave the friendly confines of the box and go up to Omaha and kind of with a lot of young guys on this team navigate some of that.
Yeah, it should be fun to watch. I think across the board in the country, obviously LSU and Arkansas are still there, but like you said, those two other SEC teams kind of getting eliminated, I think was kind of a shock. I think I was expecting at least to see a lot more SEC representation within this Omaha field. And also, with Vanderbilt and Tennessee last year, keeping that kind of tradition, or at least what has been the tradition of the last couple of years of the SEC kind of being so dominant in this sport. It's going to be a little bit more of a expanded field. The West Coast is kind of making a little bit of a resurgence, which is nice to see. It was always fun when you would have like a UC Irvine, UCLA, which is back in the field today. Those guys like kind of showing up and showing out again. So should be a really fun field. I'm excited to kind of see, especially off the bat, if LSU can't beat Arkansas that first game, how do they respond to that loss?
Yeah, hopefully they don't have to worry about that.
Yeah,
obviously,
that'd be great. That'd be great.
We'll see. This thing may end up being, I mean, obviously these two teams see each other in league play every season. And earlier this season, LSU was able to take 2 out of 3. But again, that was at Alex Box Stadium down here in Baton Rouge. And some of those games were tough. The Friday night game, I believe it was a Friday to Sunday series, but game 1 of that series, either way, went to extras. And so the difference in these two teams, obviously, throughout the year has been, razor thin. They're no pun intended, that Razorbacks and razor thin, but there are a lot of, there are truly unintentionally, but there are certainly some similarities to these teams when we look the last couple of weeks at the matchups and talk about, how much going into this weekend. It was, man, LSU and West Virginia are scoring at similar rates, but LSU's ability to put the ball into the stands was just dwarfing anyone else that they saw. Arkansas is actually a more powerful team in that regard. And, quality pitching. It's another good two-way team that you start this Omaha journey matched up against. And there have been, in addition to this year, just so many great battles between those two teams annually that, it's one hell of a way to start the College World Series for sure.
I'm excited. I didn't know that I was that I had this much baseball fandom in me until this weekend. It was great. It was great. That and hockey. For some reason, I've just been watching both of those intently every single night that they've been on. So
it's really easy to, and particularly being not in Baton Rouge like you up there in Chicago, to have college baseball kind of fly under the radar through a lot of the spring. And then as soon as you kind of tap in, you realize this is an awful lot of fun.
Yeah.
Like this time of year is really a good time. I remember growing up and just really greatly enjoying the end of the school year and knowing that college baseball is about to be on ESPN or ESPN2 or whatever, quite a bit, and get to watch some of these games and become kind of enamored with it then. And obviously then was a fun time for LSU fans to win all those championships in the 90s, but to watch the game grow now over the last couple of decades and see where there's that much higher quality baseball being played coast to coast and, up north and really all over the place. It's an awful lot of fun.
It also just, it's a great reminder for me, especially up here, to all these Midwestern folk that like it is a secondary religion after football. LSU baseball is a cult like status, and I mean that in a good cult way, not a Manson-y cult way.
And it's, as much as I mentioned, it's grown around the country. It is still so wildly different here versus places like up there.
Explaining to people like how much people love college baseball down there, and that it is ostensibly the professional team, and people show out to at least like a AAA type showing out of that many people, in that it's like a tiny minor league team, or not a tiny major league team. It is something that people live for down there. And I know I'm saying this on the Louisiana versus All Y'all channel. People already know this, but it's been really, really just kind of, I don't know. It's kind of a sense of pride from home, like explaining to people like how LSU like holds the attendance record pretty much every year, like that it is. It is literally like football, and then like baseball is like actually right here. It's not as far of a gap as some people would think.
The amount of guys through the years that have mentioned going from playing at LSU, or specifically at LSU, but playing around the SEC and then going to start their careers in the minors, and how stark of a contrast that was to take kind of a step down in terms of where they were as college players, has been really interesting. And that's been, going back decades now. What is probably more interesting or surprising to fans here sometimes is to hear from fans elsewhere around the country. Like, I grew up here and so wasn't aware of how stark of a contrast, particularly back then, that a lot of, northern baseball versus down in the SEC. And so hearing from friends that went to Michigan State and then moved down here to work at the newspaper or whatever, and said, yeah, actually, going to one of our games was like almost adjacent to, you accidentally stumble onto the parade grounds and there's like a baseball game there with a set of stands on the side, and you don't realize you're at the baseball game. So it's kind of wild.
It's hard because up here, literally, it was in the 50s last night. Still, it's June. Like we were getting hit by like 40-degree weather midway through May. Like, no one's playing baseball. You
Yeah.
want me to be outside? Like, no one wants to do that. So it's just hard to get a good Midwest or just this half of the country to really have a consistent, good team, which is so crazy because like people up here love their MLB baseball. So it feels like there should be a little bit more, and we're going on a weird tangent with this. Feels like there
Yeah.
should be more, more, I guess, resources put into baseball up here because there is a demand for it. Like we see that with the Cubs, the Pirates, the Indians. I'm sorry, the what are they called now? The Guardians.
The Guardians.
The
Yeah.
Guardians, excuse me. But the Detroit Tigers, Cincinnati Reds, like all those people love their teams. Like went to the game in Great American Ballpark last year, and it was packed, and the Reds weren't that good. So, yeah, interesting to see. A very interesting kind of dichotomy with a north kind of south type thing. But
Yeah.
is what it is.
College baseball starts so dang early. I mean, they're
Yeah.
in the middle of February, they're playing games. So that's why you see all of those, Big Ten schools starting out heavy on the road and coming down to weekend series down here and stuff like that. And obviously it's the complete opposite problem down here, where one of the talking points this weekend, in addition to, okay, Sunday's pushed back because of the lightning, was Saturday was absolutely miserably hot. And so talking about the pitchers trying to navigate that and eat those innings on the mound, knowing that the temps are up there pushing 100 and it's humid as can be, and fans are miserable and just struggling to stay hydrated in the stands, let alone, Cade and Kern are out there battling on the mound for some long innings. And so it's been kind of crazy. And I'm just, I guess, kind of using that to transition back into this LSU team and what they've done to get to this point. There were aspects of this weekend that weren't always pretty. And, for the pitchers in particular, Cade Anderson and Anthony Ianson had to battle a little bit more than maybe they had in some recent starts. It was a little bit more of a grind, and whether it be those guys or some of the guys at the plates with some long at-bats, they had to find their way through some things.
I was getting so nervous for Anthony yesterday when he was getting up to 100 pitches and they had the mound visit, and then he went back out there. I was like, oh man, I don't know how much longer he's got. And he had pitched so well. I mean, but you're in there for that long. That's just what's going to happen. And so I was getting real nervous once it got to 6-4. I was like, if this goes any longer, this could start to really get out of hand, at least in that inning. So I'm glad they were able to pull it out. Glad, obviously, LSU was able to get the sweep on the weekend. But it was not without its moments of drama.
He did a nice job after. So the 2 home runs in the fourth, I believe it was. Yeah. He had only allowed 4 home runs the entire season thus far. Had never allowed a home run in back-to-back games, let alone in a span of 5 batters in the same inning. And each time he recovered and then got the next out. And same thing when a run got across the following inning, he got the next out. So he managed to get out of there with 5 innings and still a 2-run lead and give the bats a chance there, playing still from ahead. And credit to Cooper Williams, who comes in and eats 2.5 there in relief in the middle of that game. To see, I wrote a story about it this week, and we talked a lot about it, this past week, but Kason Evans coming in and having the Monday night that he had to close out the regional as a freshman pitcher, to see Cooper Williams have the night that he had on Sunday night. These are all just additional pieces of the encouragement for LSU's potential when they get up there to Omaha, where they're going to need more than 2 pitchers to be on it to get through that thing. And so to see guys in their biggest stages yet of their young careers having these moments is really nice to see, them kind of continuing to, they've had solid freshman seasons, but to do it at this level as they kind of springboard now up to Omaha is critical.
Absolutely. We will keep you updated next week on how this first weekend of Omaha went. Obviously, that's what we do here at PODnas, but let's get into some NBA. I think that's what the people want to see. And by the people, we mean Nick and Chet. So it is a 1-1 series now, going back to Indiana. Oklahoma City absolutely dominated yesterday. What do you think this series does now? Do you think, because I feel like this next game in Indiana is obviously very crucial. Because if Indiana has another game, if they have another game where they're turning the ball over this much, it's going to start to get ugly quick. And this may go the way of like the 2001 Lakers 76ers, where the 76ers grab game one and then it is just over quickly. This Oklahoma Thunder team is capable of that, and they are that good. But we've seen Indiana have so many surprises this postseason, but it has felt like a little bit of a roller coaster. So my money, I'm just betting on this team that is so dynamic defensively, excuse me, is going to just come through and really start to flex their teeth. But I've been wrong in a lot. So,
well, what's interesting is Indiana turned the ball over so much more in game one. Like, it wasn't quite twice as frequently in game one as game two, but the game where they theoretically, statistically took care of the ball a little bit better was game two, where they ended up getting kind of run from start to finish. But this game three, you mentioned, is going to be critical. And I don't remember what the statistics are when series are tied 1-1, whoever wins game three is, I think it's like 80% or something likely to go on and win the series. And so just historically, statistically, it's obviously big. It's also Oklahoma City is 4-3 on the road in the playoffs.
yeah.
They've been phenomenal at home. They've lost all 3 game threes so far through the Western Conference playoffs, have had, if not their worst game of each series in game 3 in their first road game of the series, then one of their 2 worst probably. Game 3 was where they trailed Memphis by 29 and had to salvage that thing and to come back in a furious rally. They lost in overtime at Denver in game 3. The only loss of the Minnesota series was badly in game 3.
Yeah.
And so how do they now go to Indiana and kind of try to look like they did in game 2 on the road, where that's been kind of a challenge for them? Meanwhile, Indiana has been the lower seed in 2 of those 3 series. And so, their road home dynamics have been a little bit different, but they've lost all 3 of their game 3s as well, including the past 2 being at home. They go on the road and win 2 games to start each series and then come home and lose. And so I don't know what the hell we're about to see on Wednesday in terms of how these teams show up. But that track record to this point from these teams, knowing the historical significance of this swing game is wild to me, to just wonder what this is about to look like.
I think the key thing that when I was watching last night with Indiana, it wasn't the amount of turnovers, it was when those turnovers were happening. It felt like very critical, like as opposed to the game 1, they had I think 19 turnovers in the first half. And then they really tightened it up. I think there were only like 3 or 4 in the second half. This felt like a lot in the second half, and a lot where maybe they were getting it to like that 12, 13, like something where maybe they could maybe try and claw back a little bit and get back in this thing. They would go, Miles Turner, I remember specifically, went up to go get a rebound, and then ball just goes off his legs and goes out of bounds. It's like those unforced errors and mistakes are something that you can't really give this Oklahoma City team, because most of the time they will take advantage of it. I think it was an anomaly in game 1 that they literally just didn't convert on a lot of their turnovers. It was statistically very low. I think even on like their fast break turnover threes, they were like 1 or 2 for 9 at one point or something. They just weren't hitting the shots that they normally hit. And then also for Indiana, they got to figure out something about the offensive boards. There were 2 or 3 times, especially in the second half, where that Indiana team had to go back on defense 3 or 4 different times because Chet or Hardenstein just or Lou Dort just would go up and grab a rebound. Like there would be an Indiana player there, and it looked like the Oklahoma City team just kind of wanted it more. And maybe that's because Indiana was like, oh, we got one game in our pocket, whatever. But still, it's something that was really glaring to me watching the game last night.
Yeah, the rebound differential swung from
Yeah,
Indiana winning game 1 by 14 to OKC winning game 2 by 8. And so a 22 rebound swing between the
yeah,
games, and that showed up in all kinds of ways. Everything you were just saying of just having to defend that same possession 2 and 3 times, and how much of a backbreaker that is. And the transition dynamics where if Indiana or if OKC got out in the open court and wasn't able to convert in game 1, it seemed like Indiana was able to kind of clean that thing up and push it right back up the other way. Whereas OKC was a little bit more relentless at times with some of that stuff, whether it be in the half court or in transition. It was interesting. And SGA was
oh,
phenomenal.
it was great. Yeah. I still get really kind of upset with the kind of foul calls that he gets. It just feels kind of ridiculous. But I think the same thing can be said a little with, Brunson, and not so much Halliburton as well, but like sometimes it just feels like, and maybe this is also credit to Shea, like he is so shifty that the contact does come early and he's able to compose himself and get back under. And so it looks like maybe he didn't get as touched as much as he was. I'm not there. I'm not on the floor. I'm not an NBA ref. But that has been, I think, just a little bug along with the AT&T commercial for me all postseason. But it was an incredible game. Him in the mid range, that little step back is just beautiful every time he takes it. It's so much fun to watch. Him and this team, when they're clicking on all cylinders, it is a really, really fun team to watch.
And they appeared to be doing pretty much exactly that on Sunday night. And so if you're a Pacer or a Pacers fan, you hope it doesn't quite look so smoothly when they arrive to your place on Wednesday, because they are, the whole season record bears it. They are really tough to beat when they are playing, up to their capability, and they've done it far more often than not.
Yeah. So Wednesday is this finals game in Indiana. How many, and I was listening to Simmons, Rosillo, how many Indiana like legends are they going to be able, and who do you think they're going to be able to bring out? Because I think they're going to have to, you got to put it's like when you break up with someone and then the first time you're going to see them in public, like you want to look your best. You want to look like you won the breakup. They've got to come correct. Like this place is the Indiana arena is going to be rocking for sure. But I think they're going to have to bring out whatever heavy hitters Indiana has. I think Bill Hader's from there. So I think.
Okay.
No, he's from Minnesota. I don't know. I don't know. But is Larry Legend going to be there? I think Reggie Miller has to be on the sidelines. I feel like he's just got to be there. But who else is? Are they going to roll in Caitlin Clark on the sideline?
Yeah, I'm sure. Well, what does their schedule look like? I would say Caitlin Clark and Mike Epps have been kind of the two faces of the Pacer fan base from a, on in the stands or on the sideline or whatever on the television broadcast throughout the playoffs. Larry Bird would obviously be one that everyone is kind of curious about, is as big of a name in Indiana basketball as there can be, from growing up there playing at Indiana State, and then his time actually with the Pacers organization as a coach and front office guy. I don't know. It's definitely a different looking dynamic than when you're, at Madison Square Garden or at a Lakers game or whatnot. And I think they take pride in that, honestly, that it's, it's not,
but let's just go. I looked up a list of famous Pacers. So let me just go through this. Mike Epps, like you said, Jesse Eisenberg might be able to get fake Zuckerberg there.
Yeah.
Terry Crews.
Yeah.
Terry Crews would be great.
Jesse Eisenberg gets the folks hype. That's what I think.
Listen, Now You See Me is a great movie, all right? Terry Crews would be amazing. That would be actually incredible. Caitlin Clark, obviously. 50 Cent. I don't know if that is just to get a ditty, but I think it might be. And David Letterman. I think David Letterman might make an appearance.
Okay, sure. Yeah, Letterman, that makes sense.
Yeah. Maybe Paul George just shows up in his old Pacers jersey. So
It'd be nice for him to see the final some kind of way,
oh, little PG-13 shade. I love it. I think that's the best way to end the show, to be honest. What do you got for the rest of the series? How do you think this plays out?
I really don't know. I am a little bit worried, like you mentioned, one of those examples of the Sixers beating the Lakers in game 1 and then the Lakers just kind of rolling the rest of the way. I'm from a fan standpoint and a basketball fan standpoint that would like to see some good games and, a few more games and not be done with basketball quite so quickly. That's concerning, but I think is quite on the table. But I really don't know, looking at these two teams' track records in the playoffs thus far, what the hell to expect from game 3. And so I'm not overly confident to go start throwing some money on DraftKings or Caesars or whatever for game 3. And I think game 3 is swinging this thing any number of ways based on how Wednesday night goes. And so I'm just interested to see what the hell happens Wednesday and kind of go from there.
I think it's still Thunder, and but I think it's gonna go one more game than I originally thought. I think it's gonna be Thunder in 6. I think Indiana's gonna get one more home game, and then I think the Thunder will just kind of lock in and take care of business. But you're right; it's gonna be super interesting. Hope some of these games are a little bit closer, and so we don't need a 15-point, 20-point run at the end of the game to make it look more interesting than it actually was. Would love to see one where they're just kind of going back and forth and kind of everyone's given like body shots the whole entire time until someone finally throws a haymaker in the last like couple minutes. So we'll see. We'll keep you updated here. That's what we do on PODnas. I don't have anything else. You got anything else?
No, that's about it, man. Looking forward to Omaha. Looking forward to these finals. Looking forward to continuing to grind through this college camp season on the recruiting trail on my end as well. So should be a fun, next phase of June.
Yeah. And you can keep updated on that on the channel, Louisiana versus All Y'all. Please like, share, comment on this video. And also go to the Twitter or X and Instagram for Louisiana versus All Y'all. That's LA versus All Y'all. And on PODnas, and on PODnas, Instagram, PODnas_LA. Find us on there doing stuff on the social medias. That's all I got. Jared, I hope you have a wonderful week and the best recruiting trips ever.
Thanks, man. That means a lot.
All right, PODnas.